Taiwan is bursting with heaps of fun places to explore. Join me, Amber Hatfield, as I hit up travel hotspots, soak up some culture, and hunt down hidden gems. Let's go! Hi and welcome back to Let's Go. I'm Amber Hatfield. Today, in this episode, we are going to be talking with Ray, the owner of Freedive Nomad, a company teaching people how to freedive in Taiwan's island of Xiaoliuqiu. Let's get straight into the interview.
So I am a freedive yoga and breathwork instructor. I'm based in Xiaoliuqiu for the last 4 years. Before I go through my background more, I'd like to just tell you about what the state I was in before I found freediving.
Okay.
And I was recovering from depression that I got from life in finance and a 8-year divorce. I was riddled with panic attacks and anxiety, which I was just about managing. And I was suffering from fibromyalgia, which is a rather debilitating medical condition, which made me feel, it was chronic fatigue and chronic pain. It feels like you have a cold, basically, in terms of your lethargy and pain all the time to various degrees. Unhappy, stressed out, and broke from a divorce. So that's before I found freediving. Oh, also, I wasn't sleeping very well. I lived in Taipei and Hong Kong. Just living in those cities alone have a lot of stress. Best I was sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night. 5, maybe 6.
Wow.
Now I got 7 hours of sleep last night. I usually get about 7 or 8 hours of sleep. It's amazing. I never thought I could get 1 or 2 extra hours a night. I'm very happy. I live on a tiny little island. I can go to the beach in 1 minute. My second wife is amazing. I live off a lot less than I had before in terms of material wealth. And yet I'm happy, possibly for the first time in my life. And freediving, I have to thank for getting me on the journey to having this life that I absolutely love. So let's jump back. Rewind back to, I was born and raised in the U.S. I'm kind of Hong Kong Taiwanese, very American. After graduating from university, I went to China to learn Mandarin. And after about a year there, I had to do the grown-up thing and look for a job. I moved to Hong Kong because I had a really good friend living there. I like the vibe of Hong Kong. It's just great when you're young. You have the energy. It's awesome. I didn't have the mindset of, let's do something that I like to do, because I didn't even know what I liked to do back then. I chose the job which would make the most money.
Right, okay.
And that was like investment banking, finance. And so fortunately, I had a pretty good career. Very grateful for what it was able to give me and what I've learned from there and the friendships I've made there. Although it is very stressful, it is a very demanding job. I got married, had 2 kids, one of them special needs, and after about 7 years, things really weren't working out in a very, not a great way. And so I filed for divorce and custody after about 7 years of marriage. That lasted 8 years. 8 years in the Hong Kong judicial system.
Wow.
Until that was all done and dusted. And the pressure of the job, the divorce, and not really knowing how to deal with that pressure and that stress, other than going out and having 18 drinks on a Monday night.
Right.
And going for a massage once in a while. So I kind of burnt the candle at both ends. I was getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep, maybe, hungover, have some coffee. And so I was in quite heightened state, or in the fight or flight state. I think I've spent most of my career in finance of 20 years.
And so that kind of tough period, then you found a way out of that through the freediving. Is that how that happened?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just, I wasn't looking for something to help me out. It was just, I just like freediving. I saw a movie back in 1980 something, which a lot of freedivers been inspired by. It's called The Big Blue, or Le Grand Bleu in French. It's a French movie, although it's in English. And I never thought freediving was a thing that you could learn until once I figured, oh, wow, there's freediving courses. And I immediately started looking for a course, and I just went straight into it. And immediate effects were I didn't feel that lethargy. I didn't feel that pain going through a rather demanding course, right? And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. The feeling that 3 or 4 days I was taking that course, I just felt rejuvenated. I felt younger. I could forget about my problems for a while in a healthy way, right? And when my instructor asked if I wanted to take the second level course, I was like, all right, I want to see if this is not a fluke. And I did it again, and I was just like, this is it for me. This is it. Well, I took the level 2, and right there I was like, I'm going to go become an instructor. I'll continue working in finance. I'll side hustle becoming an instructor, doing something that I'm passionate about. Not even a few weeks after that, I got laid off. This is like the second time I got laid off from the same company, same job.
Oh, wow.
In like 2.5 years. This was like a 6-month stint, and they got rid of the division globally. So had a good redundancy package, severance package. And second half of the year is not a great time for hiring in my industry. So I went to Indonesia and got my instructor certification. This was the end of 2019. We know what happened then.
Oh, yeah.
I went back to the U.S., see my parents, got stuck because of COVID. I couldn't go back to Asia to look for a job. And so I came back to Taiwan because I needed to finish my residency requirement for my citizenship. Decided to go to Xiaoliuqiu and try teaching freediving for full time. And 4 years later, I'm sitting in a radio station talking about it.
Right, cool. So you started Freedive Nomad, which is what your company is called?
Correct.
Yeah. So can you kind of introduce your company a little bit more about what it is that you guys do?
We teach, I like to call it therapeutic freediving courses.
Okay.
It's not a regular freedive course. It's using, so freediving, in order to do it well, you have to have higher and higher levels of ability to relax, right? Or to self-regulate your nervous system. And your journey into freediving is a long journey into this topic of controlling your nervous system. So I do teach a regular freedive course, but on top of that, I do teach things like breath work for stress, restorative yoga, some yoga, morning yoga, relaxation techniques. Yeah, I want you to, even if you never freedive again, after my courses, I want you to be able to use some of these tools that you've learned over the 4 days, the courses, and apply it to your everyday life. And, start your journey into being able to self-regulate your nervous system.
Yeah, cool. So for anyone who kind of hasn't really heard of freediving or isn't sure, freediving, scuba diving, what is this difference? How are these two sports different? Can you explain that?
Yes. So scuba diving, you have a tank attached to you, what they call a BCD, buoyancy control device, that is attached to, and you're breathing underwater. Freediving, you're holding your breath and diving underwater. Championship freedivers can dive to 100 plus meters for 4.5 minutes.
Wow, yeah. It's really impressive.
Yeah. I can do 2 minutes, 40, 50 meters I'm aiming for right now. On the surface, it looks very similar. We do have similar equipment. We have a mask, snorkel, wetsuit. And, we're in the ocean, but that's pretty much where the similarities end. Right? They say that scuba diving, you do it to look out. And free diving is more introspective. You really have to tackle your relaxation. And so it was more about achieving depth.
Right. I like that, actually. I've not really heard anyone explain it like that before. So scuba diving is more about like what fish can you see and what you can see underwater, whereas free diving is more about kind of connecting with yourself. The ocean. Oh my God. You go down and, if you're nice and relaxed, you can feel Mother Ocean giving you this gigantic hug, and it feels amazing. Amazing. We're holding our breath, so the pressure is almost like a weighted blanket. Oh, okay, yeah.
So some people actually, it could be a trigger for trauma.
Okay.
Getting off topic, a little bit off topic here. A friend of mine, she is a research psychologist. She's a freedive instructor based in Hawaii. And so she's doing a lot of work using freediving to treat like PTSD trauma. And one of the theories that she's positing is that if you get to sort of a depth, a failure depth, and the usual things aren't, so you have some typical reasons why you would not be able to achieve a depth equalization. You're not comfortable with your breath hold. But some people feel this like pressure on their chest.
Mm-hmm.
And she's saying that's similar to the feeling you get when you're having sort of that panic or that traumatic experience, right? And that is a trigger from their past trauma. And so in order to get deeper, you will have to shed some of that emotional baggage, right? And so you have to do a lot of work on yourself in order to dive deeper.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. I mean, I have heard people before saying this about, when you get in the water, you feel kind of just this sense of relaxation and everything. But I never knew it can go that deep as well, that it's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
The water is a great healer. When you get in the water, your body, your brain waves will be at the same wavelength as being in meditation. So it's very relaxing in that sense. It also produces pain-killing chemicals in your body. I forgot what they are, but it's akin to sort of like morphine, that kind of like opiates. And when I was in Indonesia training for my instructor certification, I was still having a lot of this pain from fibromyalgia, and I would be the first one in the water because I know when I got in, the pain just went away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really impressive. What is it that you love the most then about freediving with that in mind?
It's the feeling. I wish I could be more eloquent in my words, and I would give there'd be 1,000% increase of freedivers out there. But, to put it bluntly, it's the greatest natural high I've ever experienced. You're already with a great start being in the ocean, being relaxed. If you're in a little bit of pain, the pain-killing chemicals, then to have this focus, this presence, mindfulness of this singular task. Your phone's not there. That's like a source of a lot of our mental problems, I think.
Yeah.
Certainly mine. And, nobody's down there with you except your safety, obviously, but it's just you and your thoughts and controlling those thoughts and being present at what you're doing. You're not thinking about paying this bill or this issue with the relationship there, or you're focused on the task at hand.
It's like a flow state or something like that.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
flow state. It's so quick to get that flow state. And when you train right, those dives should feel awesome. And I come up, big smile on my face. I like getting video or photos of my students coming out, and then I have one where this guy has this gigantic smile on his face. And it's just this natural high. And you have serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, all these great neurochemicals being flooded into your body.
Would you say that you have like any specific favorite moments or memories of freediving, or is it kind of just as great every single time that you do it?
Every single time I go out, it feels awesome. I never regret it. Even if it's like bad current days, terrible weather, I never regret it. But the greatest probably would be freediving with humpback whales in Tonga last year. So humpback whales, of all the whales, probably the most curious, almost like dolphin-like, right? You have, the sperm whales are proven to have like an amazing intelligence, complex social system, I guess you could say, but they kind of just swim by you. But humpback whales take an interest in you. They will swim straight for you, then just kind of veer off, and then you just like go look at their gigantic eyes, and you're like, whoa. And then they have this huge pectoral fin. Once you avoid that, if they make the full turn, then their fluke or their tail comes whipping around as well. So you got to go avoid that. But most of the time we spend at the surface, and when we get a signal from the dive guide, we can dive down. The first time I went down, the whale dove down and started coming right towards me. After a while, you started getting comfortable and you know what's going on, so it's not as scary. It just feels awesome. That was such a high.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So I'd love to move on a little bit and learn about what kind of skills you actually need to do freediving.
I don't want to say you got to be fit and all this. You don't have to be. I wasn't fit when I took my first freedive course. You just have to be able to swim 200 meters comfortably. And that's more just a test, I believe, test your comfort in the water.
Right.
Because if you're not comfortable in the water, it's a waste of your time and money, it's a waste of my time, and it's just not going to be a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
If you have some medical conditions, we always give a medical form. If you check yes to any of the conditions, then you'll have to get a doctor sign off. Those are the prerequisites. The skills you'll learn, first is to relax. We teach a body scan, which is going through each part of the body and consciously sort of releasing the tension there. I do that every day now. And that does amazing things to not only relax your body, but relax your mind.
Right.
Breath holding, I teach you how to comfortably hold your breath and not panicking, right? Part of it is education. If you're not educated and you hold your breath, you're thinking that, oh my God, my oxygen levels are going down and I'm going to pass out. You're not. I've held my breath for over a minute and tested my O2 saturation above 90%. What is happening is that CO2 is rising, and more than a little bit of CO2 can start feeling scary if you don't know what's happening, right? It feels a little bit acidic, and that's what your body is sensing, and then they start sending these panic signals to your body. But if you know, oh, this is just CO2, and you can kind of relax through it, and that's sort of the main thing of getting through your breath hold. So we'll do the breath hold dry. We'll teach probably the most important skill is how to equalize.
Right, yeah.
As you dive deeper, your increased pressure differential between outside and your inside, and that puts a pressure on your ears and your sinuses, and you have to learn how to equalize that. If you know how to equalize in scuba, no luck. That is different than equalizing with freediving.
Oh, okay.
Scuba equalization is a little bit different or easier because you're head up. And if you want to think about physics, air wants to go towards the surface, and if you're head up, it already wants to naturally have this pressure to go out through your ears. Freediving, we're doing it head down.
Yeah, okay.
And so it has to have a stronger equalization and more efficient, obviously, to clear your ears or equalize that pressure. And it's a little more difficult to learn than scuba type of equalization. And so first thing I do when you sign up for a course, I'll send you a video of how to do it, and then we'll do a follow-up, and then do it like 1,000,000 times a day until you start your course, because we want it in as muscle memory. When you hold your breath and you're doing these new movements, you forget everything.
Right, okay.
Even when I dive to sort of my personal best levels of depth, I forget things, because like trying to remember some certain sensations in your mouth for equalization, I forget them.
Okay.
And you do have a bit of amnesia. That's why it's important to have that in your muscle memory. So when you go down, you're like, oh, I need to equalize. It's a reaction rather than, okay, I need to put my tongue here, and then I have to press up here, and then, then we learn how to hold your breath for 1.5 minutes, which is the requirement for the certification. Just knowing about CO2 alone gets you a long way.
Right.
But then we teach you how to take the biggest breath, how to relax through the breath hold. And most people can easily get to 1.5 minutes.
That's all for this week's episode of Let's Go. Come back next week for part 2 of my chat with Ray about freediving in Taiwan.